What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be comparing the Eride Pro SR and the 2025 Surron Ultra Bee. Both of these are amazing bikes and we get asked all the time which one is better for you guys. So today we're going to rank them in 15 different categories to see who wins and better provide you guys with some amazing information. With having spent hundreds and hundreds of miles on both of these different models, we're excited to be able to compare them and rank them. You will also notice that both these bikes have a fair amount of aftermarket upgrades and mods on them. Before this, we're going to pretend that they are completely stock, but don't worry, we're going to talk about all those different mods at the very end of the video in case you guys are interested. Our first category is going to be the price. Now this is always the most important one when you're looking for a new bike to purchase. The Eride SR, we're going to start off with, comes in at $5,700. This was recently lowered from $6,300. So with that price drop, it's pretty good value. Now with the Surron Ultra Bee, it's a little bit of a different story because this bike is a little bit harder to purchase. You can't necessarily just purchase it online at a US website because they really only sell to dealers that are local to you in the USA. And sometimes they're hard to find, and you can find them anywhere from $6,000 to $7,000, or what a lot of people do is you can order them directly from China for around $5,000, give or take. So with that information, it's kind of hard to mark a clear winner because I know it is possible to get an Ultra Bee for less than an SR, but most of you guys, if you're buying from a reputable dealer that you know 100% certain you're walking out of that store with a bike, you are going to pay more than an SR. So we are going to give the point to the SR for being less expensive. Our next category is top speed. This is one that everybody cares about. Let's start with the Ultra Bee. The 2025 Ultra Bee comes in at a top speed of about 56 to 57 miles an hour. We have GPS tested and verified this. On the display, it does say you're going a little bit faster than that, but a top speed of 57. The Eride SR, however, is a lot faster. We have GPS tested this at 72 miles an hour. So that is a huge difference. Easily the SR is getting a point on this one. Our next category is build quality. You want a high quality product when you buy one. The Eride Pro SR has been around for about a year as a model. The Eride brand has been around for about 3 years. So they've had a little bit of time and they have increased their build quality. But let's talk about the Ultra Bee. The Ultra Bee has actually been a model for substantially longer, been around for 3 or 4 years on its own. In 2025, they did do some substantial revisions to make this bike better. However, Surron's quality just is better. It is better than Eride Pro all throughout all of their models. The Hyper Bee, the Light Bee, and the Ultra Bee just are all higher quality on the fit and finish and the parts and the build quality slash like nuts and bolts being assembled. They just feel higher quality when you put them together. So we're giving the point to the Ultra Bee. Our next category is power. Of course, this is a huge one. We're going to start off with the Ultra Bee. Both of the 2025 Ultra Bee models are either 18 kilowatts or 21 kilowatts. The 21 kilowatt model, you only get that power with the boost button. So 18 kilowatts constant, 21 kilowatts peak for the Ultra Bee. For the SR, we are rocking a whopping 25 kilowatts of power, so it is more than the Ultra Bee. I would say torque-wise, they are very similar to each other. They both have a lot of torque. I might say that the SR feels like it has a little bit more, and I think that more comes to do with the gearing this bike has and it being a little bit lighter weight. We'll talk about that more in the future, but we are going to give the point to the SR. Our next category is suspension. Now, this is an interesting one because I think that both of these bikes have similar quality levels of suspension. However, with the Ultra Bee being a little bit bigger bike and it having beefier, more robust suspension, it just seems to handle the bigger hits, the rocks, the whoops and jumps better than the SR. So this is kind of a hard one to give a point to because, again, I think the quality level is about the same, but when most people get off of an SR and onto an Ultra Bee, the suspension in their mind feels better because bigger, more heavy-duty, robust suspension just feels that way. So we are going to give the point to the Ultra Bee because at the end of the day, it feels better. The next category is battery size. Starting off with the Eride SR, we have a 72-volt, 50-amp-hour battery. Moving on to the 2025 Ultra Bee, there are actually two battery sizes for those two 2025 models. We have a 72-volt 55-amp-hour and a 72-volt 60-amp-hour. This here is the 60-amp-hour HP model, like I mentioned. A lot of you guys will comment and say that, no, this battery is not 72-volt, it's 74-volt. It's the same thing, it's just math, the amount of cells. It is actually 72-volt 60 amp hour. So with that range, we actually have done range tests on both of these bikes in the same location. How we do this is we test them in eco and sport mode at 2 constant speeds until the bike dies. So in eco mode speed of about 28 miles an hour or sport mode speed of about 50 miles an hour. Both these bikes go faster than that, but for the sake of the consistency in this test, that's what we tested them at. The SR in eco mode did 59 miles. The SR in sport mode did 29 miles. And then the Ultra Bee, again, with the larger battery version, we did 67 miles in eco mode and 38 miles in sport mode, again, at the same speed of each other, the same rider being me. So that is actually a pretty big difference in range. We have a larger battery by about, give or take, 20% larger, a little bit less, and I would say we're getting between 20 and 30% further range when you're actually riding them. So the point is going to go to the Ultra Bee. Our next category is going to be aftermarket parts upgradability. When you buy an e-moto, oftentimes you want to spend some extra money customizing the bike to make it better, make it look better, make it ride better, make it more custom to you, right? So both these bikes, it's a good category to talk about. The Eride SR, again, has been out for about 1 year, and there are a lot of aftermarket upgrades available for this bike, but the aftermarket upgradability isn't as high as some other models on the market. Let's talk about the Ultra Bee. The Ultra Bee has been around for longer than the SR, and so there has been more time for companies to come out with more aftermarket upgrades for this bike. 2025 had the few changes that it had, but pretty much everything on the aftermarket side are still compatible with this bike versus like the 2024 or the 2023 model. So I think there is actually a pretty close comparison between the aftermarket upgrades for these bikes, but we are going to give the winner to the Ultra Bee because I think there is just more stuff available, so point there. Speaking of aftermarket upgrades, if you guys appreciate this video and want to learn more about upgrades and purchase some, we have a store called tbelectricmoto.com. We have 2 discount codes for you, TB Electric and Talaria Boys. And again, we're going to talk about all the upgrades and mods on these bikes already at the end of the video. Our next category is Headlight. Now, this bike does not have a stock headlight on it. This is an upgraded one, but for the sake of this test, again, we're just talking about the stock headlight. It is a light bar, and I think it's fantastic. It just has on or off, no daytime running or high beam or anything like that, but it is a really nice wide beam. It is actually excellent for off-roading this bike at night. Now, the Ultra Bee has more adjustability within the headlight. It actually has high beam and low beam. You can toggle on and off, and you can also just flicker the high and low beam on quickly if you need to. Now, this headlight has more functionality, but it's not as good at actually being a headlight to provide you light to ride at night, especially not in the woods. The beam is just not as large, so it's just harder to see. So we're gonna give the point to the SR. Our next category is charging speed. We're gonna immediately call this test a draw because both bikes charge at 10 amps. Now that means because this battery is smaller, it does finish faster, but it's charging at the same speed, about 5 hours from completely dead on the SR and 6 hours from completely dead on the Ultra Bee, again, because it has a larger battery. Our next category is going to be going over displays, buttons, and switches. This is a little bit more of a personal preference category because you might like something a little bit different than I do, but I've spent a lot of time on each of these bikes, so let's go over it. Starting off with the Ultra Bee, we have our center display right here. We have our key ignition switch just to the right of it. We have our buttons on the left. Let's go over those buttons. So we have our headlight. We got high and low beam. We can also push this button to keep our high or low beam on. We can also flicker our light with this other front switch. We also have our ASR traction control button. Yes, this bike has traction control, which is pretty sweet. I don't really ever use it, but you might. You can adjust that within the display, how much traction control and what kind of level you want it to help you. We also have our horn down here, and we also have our turbo button / reverse button. So if you hold this while you're stopped, the bike will go into reverse and you can drive backwards with the throttle. Or if you're riding in sport mode, you hit the turbo button, that will give you that extra boost of power for about 10 to 15 seconds. If we move over to the right side, we have our kill switch, which is really nice. A lot of moto guys are gonna appreciate that. If you kill that, your throttle's gonna be dead. Here we have our mode selector switch. We've got Eco, Daily, and Sport, 3 different modes, and we have our ready button right here on the front. When you turn the bike on, or if you hit your kill switch, you have to just quick press this ready button to activate the bike, kind of like a park feature. It's just a safety feature. I love that it has that actually. Within the display, there are a bunch of adjustability and customizations that you can make to the feel of the bike. Again, with the traction control, with the regen braking, you can also tune how the sport profile feels of the throttle, making it less or more aggressive. So there is quite a bit of customization within this whole setup. I really like that. On the display, it's pretty simple, but you get your battery in a percentage and a bars, you get your speed, you get what drive mode you're in, eco, daily, or sport, you get your total mileage, and you also get a clock. Let's go over to the SR. I'll turn this bike off to get the light gone. So if we turn this bike on, we have our large center display. We have a couple of buttons over on our throttle, i.e. the park button. This is kind of like the other bike where you have to hit this to take it out of park, and then the bike will go into the first mode and drive. This will stay in whatever mode you had previously selected, which is nice. So if you were in eco, sport, or race, when you turn the bike on, it's going to be in that mode after you hit the park button. The headlight button to turn it on and off is actually on the front of the throttle, which is actually a pretty convenient location. I appreciate that it's all built in there and have a nice clean setup. On the left-hand side, we have a Regen brake lever. We'll talk about this in the next category. We have this little mode selector that has M, that changes your mode. If you hold it, it will change between eco, sport, and race. The button right below that is for our off-throttle regen. You have 3 or 4 different modes on this that you can toggle up and down. This just means when you let off your throttle and you start coasting, how much regen braking is it going to apply for you. We also have a reverse button, same thing as the Ultra Bee. You're stopped, you hold reverse, do the throttle, you will be going backwards. When you let off, you'll start going forwards again. So our center display is very similar. It shows if you're in park or not. We have the time, we have our battery percentage, also in a bar. We have how much regen braking setting you have turned on. We got our trip miles and our total odometer and our speed. There's a few settings you can change in this display, but not a whole lot. And we'll talk about the regen in the next category. So now, after going over both of these options, I think they're both excellent systems. There's a lot of bikes that have way less functionality than both of these bikes and way smaller displays that just aren't as easy to use. So we're gonna call this category a tie, because at the end of the day, they're both great systems and it's gonna be hard to decide which one you would rather prefer. So point to both. Next category is regen braking. This goes along with our last category of displays and buttons. Let's talk about the Ultra Bee first. So as I mentioned, you can have off-throttle regen. You can program that within the display, and that means when you let off the throttle and start coasting, how much braking is it going to apply? You can also add brake sensor regen. This means that when you pull the brakes, there's a sensor that activates and actually adds regen braking. Now this is just an off-on setting, which means no matter how hard you're pulling your brakes, even if you're just barely pulling them, it's gonna add the same amount of regen braking to your bike. And this is got a little bit of flexibility within the programming on the display, but it's really nice. A lot of people love this feature to just be able to use your brakes, add regen braking, and or have off-throttle regen at the same time. If we move over to the SR, we have a little bit more functionality. We have that regen brake lever. This is a variable lever, meaning the harder you push it, the further you push it, the more regen braking you're gonna get. If you only push it a little bit, you're only gonna get a little bit of braking. I love this. This is how most aftermarket controllers come, is with this setup, and you can really get used to how much braking you wanna do, and you can really apply this well in an off-road or an on-road situation. You also have those 3 to 4 different regen level modes for off-throttle that you can just toggle with the switch right next to it. You can see on the display how much regen you have programmed into the bike, and when you let off the throttle, it will apply that regen. So this is kind of a tricky one because I think that the SR has better regen. You can also customize it within the app. So that brake lever that is variable, right, for your thumb, you can turn it up and down in the app so that you can really customize how you want it to feel. And you also still have the same off-throttle regen. I don't need regen braking on my levers because I already got brakes on there, and I really want the consistency that the thumb lever has and the customization. The Ultra Bee, however, is not bad regen. It's just, in my opinion, not quite as good or useful as the SR is, so we're gonna give the point to the SR. Our next category is apps and adjustability within them. The Eride app is excellent. It's been compatible with the SR for a while, and it just went through a complete revision that added a ton of simplicity and more features. So I actually love the SR app and all the options that it has within it. Now the Ultra Bee is a little bit more of a complex situation, and that's because there is a Surron app that you can download and you can connect to your bike to. There's not really much you can change within it, and here's the one issue. if you bought your bike directly from China, like I mentioned, the app will not connect, which is a bummer, but the US app won't connect to a bike that came straight from China, not through an official USA dealer. So with that, the app is kind of useless for a lot of people. And because Ultra Bees are so hard to find within the US right now at an actual in-person local dealer, then you know, a lot of people are just out of luck. So we're definitely giving the point to the SR here because the app is also just way more useful. Our next category is gonna be bike weights, and we're gonna immediately give this category a tie and give both bikes a point, but let's talk about the weight. The Eride Pro SR comes in at 181 pounds. We've weighed this on our personal hanging scale. The Ultra Bee, the 2025 HP model, we have also weighed on the same hanging scale at just over 200 pounds, about 201 pounds. So there's a 20-pound difference between these bikes. And when we do these comparisons on weight, sometimes we pick a clear winner when the bike is lighter, because sometimes that is important for how both of those bikes ride and feel. But now with this one, we're gonna call it a tie because this is really a hard decision. And in my opinion, this is how the bikes feel weight-wise. The SR is obviously a little bit of a smaller bike, and with that, it feels kind of heavy at 180 pounds when you ride it. But the Ultra Bee, even though it's 20 pounds heavier, this bike is larger, has beefier brakes, beefier suspension, a bigger frame, and with that, it just feels more heavy duty and robust, but doesn't necessarily feel heavier. It kind of feels lighter in its own way because it's really able to handle and manage its weight with its larger components on it versus a smaller bike that kind of has almost like too much weight for its components. But again, it's really hard to pick which one like would be the clear winner of this, so we're just gonna call it a tie and give you guys that information. Our next category is braking performance. Now, I have to say, both of these bikes have great brakes compared to a ton of other e-moto models. Let's talk about the SR first. So we have DOT 4.0 or DOT fluid brakes. They are much larger than a lot of other e-moto models. They have a large caliper, a large lever. The bike specifically here in the shop today has the version 1 SR brakes, but now all bikes are shipping with the version 2 brakes, which are even better. They're very similar size, but the lever feels better. There's more adjustability, and they just feel better when you're using them. Let's talk about the Ultra Bee. These are much more moto style brakes. They are a floating caliper design versus more of a mountain bike style caliper design here. These are still large, way larger than a mountain bike typically would have, but these are a much more moto design, as you guys can see. The levers are also larger. They have a tighter pull. They have about the same amount of adjustability. These also have a parking brake feature, which I love, which means you can pull the brake, push in this lever, and it will lock, which is so nice if you're off-roading and you're parked on a hill waiting for a buddy or something. You can just lock that and not have to try to like hold your bike up the hill. So I really love that feature. So we are gonna give the point to the Ultra Bee here because the brakes are more powerful and the pads are larger, they're gonna last longer, but I don't necessarily think that either bike has bad braking performance. The SR is just better, and with it only being 20 pounds heavier, the brakes just handle this bike better than the SRs do. Our last category is handling. This one is a little bit more personal preference, of course. I, for reference, am 6'3", so I'm a tall rider, so keep that in mind as I talk about these two bikes. Now, we have some mods on this that make it a little bit taller, as you can see, but in stock form, the stock handlebar height is not bad. We have about a 2-inch direct mount stem riser and about a 2-inch tall handlebar riser on stock. And that is pretty good for a small e-moto. We have a 19-inch front wheel and 18-inch back wheel. On the Ultra Bee, we also, in stock form, we would have a 19-inch front wheel and an 18-inch back wheel. We also have a riser built onto this bike already that we have upgraded to, but stock, the handlebar is a little bit lower. So with this, I want to talk about the handling. So when you ride these bikes, and you ride them aggressively, there's kind of two, they kind of both feel the same in a way that the fronts feel a little bit too low. And that can be solved a number of ways, and we'll talk about that in our upgrades. But basically, as you can see, we have a 21-inch front wheel on this bike. That, in my opinion, changed this bike for the better. And then the SR, we have an upgraded fork on this bike, again, adding a drop crown and raising the front end up. So in my opinion, both these bikes suffer from the front end and the front of the bike just feeling too low. and if you raise it up, the handling greatly improves. So with that, I think they both actually have pretty dang decent handling, but if you do a couple mods, the handling can get like way leveled up, which is why we've done that specifically on both of these bikes. So this is a hard one, but I am gonna give the point to the Ultra Bee. Again, this kind of plays back into the weight. I think this bike handles its weight way better than the SR does. The SR kind of feels overweight for its components. The Ultra Bee almost feels underweight for its components. So this can handle a larger, heavier rider better. The suspension can take the abuse more. And I think when you ride it really hard and aggressively, this one spits you back out on the other side of the trail in better shape and better feeling than this bike does. That is all of our categories. And as you guys can see, it is a tie. However, in my mind, there is a clear winner between these two bikes, for me personally at least. So here's my opinion. I would rather own the Ultra Bee. I think at my height and my weight, I fit this bike better. It is more capable for the kind of riding, the off-road aggressive style riding that I like to do. I just think it feels better. So even though this bike is a little bit more expensive, I think the difference in it is worth it to me. But again, both these bikes are absolutely amazing bikes, and hopefully after watching this video, you guys will have a better idea of which bike is gonna be better for you. That's all we're after on this channel, guys, is just helping you guys, giving you info, trying to help you get into the hobby and the sport, have fun riding, pick a good bike that's gonna be great for you, and then also be able to upgrade it. So with that, let's talk about upgrades that we have on both these bikes. Let's start with the Ultra Bee. We have done, as I mentioned, a 21-inch front wheel. Yes, it is orange. That's a little weird, but we pull it off of our 2024 Ultra Bee, which has an orange theme going on, but we love the 21-inch front wheel. You can custom make these and design these from Warp 9. You can do all different colors. You can do all different tires, different rotor sizes. We specifically have the same stock rotor size on this. However, if you were buying a 21, I would highly recommend doing the larger 260mm rotor from Warp 9. That basically offsets the larger diameter and more rolling weight that your front wheel has and makes it so that your braking performance stays the same, if not better than it was before. Instead of going down, we're saying consistent or getting better. Next up, we have the Warp 9 dampening bar mount. So this actually has little kind of rubber grommets in it, and it actually flexes a little bit when you ride to take vibrations off of your hands, and also it can be taller to raise your handlebars up. I love this mod being 6'3". The other things we have done is a major one. We added the EBMX X9000 version 3 controller. Now let me explain what this does to those of you guys that are new to our channel. Adding an upgraded controller to a bike gives you a couple different things. It increases the power and it increases the customization and the tunability. Cool thing with this controller, it keeps all your stock buttons and features and displays. However, you also get a new app that you can tune everything you could ever imagine that you would want to, way more than the stock app on the SR has. And we have boosted our power from about that peak of 21 kilowatts to well over 25 kilowatts consistent. And we went from 56 miles an hour to 74 miles an hour. And we also increased our torque drastically. The bike feels better. The throttle feels better. It's just absolutely amazing. So while this is an expensive upgrade, it's about $1,300 out the door. You get a ton more performance, and now this bike is actually faster than that one is, which is pretty dang impressive while still using the stock battery and the stock motor. That, I think, is actually all that we have done. Oh, we did one more mod. We did our TB Electric brake levers. So these guys just feel a little bit better, a little bit stronger, and you can put those right on your Ultra Bee. That's it. That's very little mods to a bike. I mean, I guess the money does add up with an expensive front wheel and controller, but not very many items. Let's talk about the SR. This bike has an upgraded Gigago GIO2 headlight. This is the best headlight on the market, in my opinion. 6 different ride modes. It is plug and play with this bike, and it just works perfectly. We also have some upgraded handlebar grips. This is a nice addition that you guys should do to every bike. We also have a Project 9's turn signal kit. This is also a brake light kit. So you get these turn signals right here on the front, you get a switch panel, and you get a new tail light that has blinkers built in, and if you have brake sensors installed on your bike, you'll also get the flashing brake light. If you guys are interested in a turn signal kit, you'll have to check out all those. They make them for a ton of different other bikes, and it's really nice to help you be seen and safer out on the road. We also have full install videos and guides for these on our other channel called TB Electric. That channel is all about part reviews and how-to videos to help you guys install all the different mods and upgrades that you want to do. We have well over 100 videos on there that are short, direct, to the point, so you guys can just learn. The other upgrades we have done is these foot pegs from eMoto X. I don't think the stock foot pegs on the SR are bad, but these are better, more beefy, they have more spikes and more grip. We also have an adjustable TB Electric kickstand. This just allows us to change the height and lean of our bike, especially if we're changing different tires or different wheel sizes. Our other huge mod is the EXT Faro front fork. This is a very expensive mod at about $1,600, but it does give us the extra height with a drop crown, and it is now an air fork with unlimited customization to where you can really make this feel exactly how you want it to feel. And if you're a 300-pound rider, you can make it set up for a 300-pound rider. You don't have to change springs or anything. And if you're super light, you can also make it super plush for a light rider. We are currently on stock tires on this bike, and I think the last mod we have done is our Luna float seat conversion. So this is a Surron float seat, and we sell the seat and the brackets and the different tail fender so that you can actually put this much more comfortable seat on your Eride Pro. This is a huge game changer. It raises the height up a little bit, just makes it more comfortable when you ride it. Oh, one more thing, we got the ASV breakaway brake levers. So these will fold out when you're riding if you crash, and they also have a lifetime warranty. They're an expensive product, but they're really high end, and they're gonna be something you only have to buy one time. So with that, guys, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you're interested in any of the upgrades that we have talked about today or more, check out our store, tbelectricmoto.com. There is a link down in the video description, and use those 2 discount codes, Talaria Boys and TB Electric, to save you guys some money. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. We have a very exciting video coming soon. See ya.